Welcome back, everybody. Here we are with issue 7. This will be the bonus series. We had 2 videos for issue 7, or part 1, part 2. So definitely, without a doubt, was going to not be able to do the magazine content in the regular video. So in this issue, we're going to have the YT 1000 light freighter. So this is what started off the whole YT series. So and if you remember from one of the previous issues, some of the designs and ideas were given to the Corellian Engineering Corporation by one of its main competitors. So that's kind of interesting. So here we are. This is the YT 1000. It's a light freighter. Some of you may recognize this ship. So let's have a little look at what we got here. It's 28 meters long. Its maximum speed is 740 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. Its hyperdrive rating is a class 3. It's got a class 16 backup. It's got shielding. An armament is one standard laser cannon turret. It's got a navicomputer, and it's 75 tons is the capacity. All right, so here's a little bit more about the YT-1000. So it was a significant departure from the CEC's previous designs, recognizably related to the more familiar YT-1300 that followed. The circular saucer shaped hull with docking tubes to port and starboard housing the cargo holds and other main systems. The layout of the twin engines and forward cockpit were inspired by CEC's ancient XS stock light freighter, although the multifaceted windows of the cockpit were borrowed from the Barlaz freighter. Okay, so the Santha Senior Technologies mentioned that the competitors, and that's where that comes from. So the massive engineering concern from the Liana was run by the Senior family, while the Corellian Engineering Corporation was a natural competitor. Company head Naro Sinar, maybe, openly contributed to the designs of the YT-1000. However, his more famous son, Wraith, later worked for CEC under cover to learn its secrets. So there you go. Alright, so now we're going to get into the crew facilities, and this is going to be important because this is where we're going to start working. So you can see that here's the seat cushion that we built, and we can see kind of here, you can see where the flat part stops right there, and then we just have this little bit. So I'm trying to stay true to what it actually was. So the actual crew quarters are going to be pretty simple and plain, and this was when I was trying to explain what the med bay was kind of like above the Jarrick table up here. This kind of rise here was what I was talking about, but the bottom also rises up, so this part here is parallel. So yeah, but you don't see that in this model, so it's a little bit different. And but it's got a minimal crew capacity because it's a freighter, and there really isn't a huge need for crew. So let's do a little behind the scenes action here. So the pirate ship interior. The original drawings for the interior of the pirate ship, sketched in 1975 by production designer John Barry, shows a long, roughly hexagonal hull with padded circular doorways defining the central access corridor running through the crew accommodation. Although that design of the ship had to be abandoned, many of its design features appear in the final sets, including the semicircular bench around the hologame table, which was built on set and at Elstree Studios. The bench on the film set was created in sections using plywood base covered with modeling clay to simulate the deep molding of the seat pads. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, you get to see that's what it actually was there. So um, kind of put modeling clay on there, and then they actually sat on it. So yeah, that's pretty crazy, but pretty cool at the same time. And so now we're going to go over Yavin and its moons. So um, this is obviously where episode 4, A New Hope, we deal with Yavin, more specifically Yavin 4, its moon. So it's in the outer rim in the Gordian Reach, the Yavin system. It's got 3 orbital positions, and it's 4,000 or 40,500 light years from the core. Uh, Yavin itself, Yavin Prime, is a gas giant. Its diameter is 192,000 kilometers, which is significantly uh, larger than what the planet Earth is. Um, I'm guessing probably closer to Jupiter um, than it is our size. So it's got hostile storms because it's got a toxic atmosphere, 400,000 times gravity. So if you want to get some quick exercise in, just go down there and do some squats, dude. You don't even have to put weights on. You just go down there and do one squat, and you're done. Might blow out a hammy. Primary terrain is it's a gas giant, obviously, and there's no surface water because it's a gas giant. The physical for Yavin 4 is terrestrial. It's about the size of Earth. Its atmosphere is breathable. It's temperate or to tropical standard. Jungle and rainforest, and its surface water is 8%. And the trade industry is Corsica gems, and there's no imports because not really anybody lives there. So Corsica gems, let's have a look at this. So these rare and valuable crystals are one of the chief attractions of visiting Yavin Prime, whose dense atmosphere is one of the few locations in the galaxy that naturally generates the unique conditions required to produce them. Among the hardest substances known, Corsica gems have industrial applications, but are valued largely for their beauty. The reflection of light from internal facets makes it seem as if a fire is burning inside the crystal, and it was the vibrant appearance that made them the namesake of Coruscant itself. In ancient times, a single Corsica gem was used to craft the Yavin Basilica, a sculpted jewel that contained the key to the great temple of the Masasi. So we talked about the Masasi before. I believe it was in the last issue. We talked about that when we talked a little bit more about Yavin Prime itself, or Yavin 4 itself. Actually, no, I take that back. We're talking about the Masasi here. So the Masasi, this is very interesting. So um, after the Great Hyperspace War, around 5 millennia before the Battle of Yavin took place, the Sith Lord Norg, uh, sorry, Naga Sadao and his loyal Masasi warriors chose the jungles of Yavin 4 as a secure hiding place. The Sith Lord mutated his followers into powerful users of the dark side, who built vast monuments to his honor, including the colossal Great Temple, a stone ziggurat, seemingly built without the aid of machine tools. Eventually, Sadao retired to the temple to enter a state of suspended animation in a Sith sarcophagus to await the reawakening of his spirit and the birth of a new Sith Empire. Sadao's spirit was finally brought back to life 600 years later. The fallen Jedi Frieden Nod, who attempted to destroy him after learning all he could of the dark arts. But while Sadao himself left Yavin, his cult persisted among the surviving Masasi for over 1,000 years. So if it was 5 millennia prior, and they lived for another 500 years, and he was asleep for 600, They're not there now, so we don't have to worry about the Massassi being on Yavin 4 when the rebels were there. So the Tikal city, this is another behind the scenes. Scenes on Yavin 4 were shot in the ancient Mayan city of Tikal in Guatemala, Central America, whose giant pyramids were used to evoke the ancient Massassi temples. Abandoned during the late 9th century, part of the ruin was rediscovered in 1848, but much of the original grand architecture still lies buried in the forest. Mayan civilization collapsed over a period of some 200 years, and there were several theories why the powerful and cultured society fell apart, including a prolonged period of drought. What remained of the Maya was dispersed by the Spanish conquest of the Americas. Conquistadors. The original exterior of the Great Temple was filmed in A New Hope featured an entrance created as a matte painting based on concept art by Ralph McQuarrie. So, if you know anything about Star Wars and the design of Star Wars, Ralph McQuarrie pretty much did all the basic design elements that most everything was based off of. In fact, some of the new movies and some of the stuff from the new movies are still based off of stuff from Ralph McQuarrie. So he was very influential in the look and feel of Star Wars. So this was further enhanced digitally for the 1997 special edition release. Um, so that's pretty cool. Now, let's see what else we have going on in here. So here we did our med bed. I think is what it is. I mean, it's a bunk, but I'm pretty sure that's where Luke, when he got his hand cut off, was put in there. So um, anyway, uh, rebuilding the hold. When Empire Strikes Back was um, in production during 1978, the Falcon's hold needed to be reconstructed to match the first movie, as nobody had known how successful Star Wars was going to be. The sets and many of the props had been scrapped, and the ship had not been systematically photographed or cataloged. Some of the original drawings were simply reissued, but in many areas the set builders and set dressers had to piece together the appearance of the Falcon from what they could see in the photo references that did exist. The Empire set contained a rebuilt hollow table, although no one is seen playing it in the movie. It's because they were too busy running for their lives, right? So that's pretty cool. So I think I mentioned this as we were going through initially when we were doing all of our work. So um, some of the stuff that they actually do in some of these magazines is they'll actually give you some painting tips. So I do find it a little bit interesting that they wait until issue 7 to give you painting tips for something that you should have finished many issues prior. Um, but maybe nobody had glued them in place before, so they could come back and kind of adjust this. But of course, if you were like me and you waited until you got, in my case, all of them, then you would have been able to kind of review this and then go back and whatever, if you were reviewing all the magazines as you got them. So, and it talks about all the same stuff that I did. So it talks about dry brushing, it talks about doing washes, and then actually tells you to glue stuff in place. Um, so here, before fitting the metal levers to the center console, put drops of super glue in the holes. Oh yeah, we did that. I'm surprised it didn't really specifically say to dry brush this like I did. I suppose it just says, dry brush stuff. So then it tells you to glue these things in place. Here, glue the edges of the hole in the bulkhead before inserting the door. Interesting enough, I have not glued my door. So I also haven't glued the back wall to the base part either. I mean, I have time. It's not going to be a big hurry for that. So this was actually a pretty quick bonus issue. I mean, we didn't go through a lot. I just kind of glossed over the YT1000, you know, we could have done a little bit more, but we've kind of beat the YT series to death and the Corellia Engineering Corporation. And we didn't go through all the stuff for the interior hold. I just wanted to touch on the stuff that I thought was more interesting. So here helps if you hold the magazine. So here you can see behind Leia's butt there when she's consoling Luke after Obi-Wan gets killed. You can see there's no seat back. That's just flat right there on the end of the bench. So that's why I did that to the bench that I did. So um, yeah, it's mostly for those that really paid attention. You would have known that out the gate. So all right, let's do a quick review of 8. So again, we're going to be in the crew area again. Looks like we're going to do our seat backs. We're going to have some piping to do, and this will be the wall. That's going to be right by where this bench is. So if this were in place, that will be this wall right here. So we'll have our arch here that'll go over here, and that kind of stuff. So at least I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure because if we look here, we have these um, little spots there, and that's for some of the machinery stuff along the wall back behind the bench. And this is for that um, computer station that Han sits at. Um, now, one of the things is they don't give you um, the seat that's there. So what I may end up doing is stealing one of my brother's seats out of his cockpit and then figuring out how I can mount this. I don't have a thing that I can mount it with, but I could just glue it straight down to the floor, but I feel like that wouldn't give it enough support. I need something a little bit beefier. So maybe I could use something like one of these. Although I'd have to drill a hole in the floor, then put one of these in, and then glue that in place, which I could do. I just need something that's going to give me a little bit more gluing area there. So if I do that, I'll show some of that anyway. You don't need to see the whole thing, but that might add some interest. So, but that's what we're going to work on next is this. We'll put in some of the, I don't know if we're going to do all the details, but we'll be putting that together. So, all right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this. I know this one was a quick bonus issue, and in reality, we didn't have that much to do in this issue. I just added a bunch of my own stuff. So this cargo area, I will probably be adding a fair amount of extra stuff just because I'm not going to buy a lot of extra detail stuff that you can get. So I'm just going to try to, make it a little bit nicer um, and put a little details in if I can. So, all right. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it with that. Hopefully, you guys will be back this upcoming Friday, and where you can see at the very least the first part of issue 8. I don't know if it'll be more than one or not. Depends on how much extra work I have to do. So, see you then. Bye.